Hi everyone, it's Ms. Spencer. Today we'll be dividing by one-digit divisors with no remainders. The objective for today is students will be able to divide 3-digit and 4-digit dividends by one-digit divisors with no remainders using the partial quotient strategy. Let's start by reviewing some vocabulary. Here we have 35 divided by 5 equals 7. The first number in our division sentence is going to be known as our dividend. This is the total number of objects we're splitting up. The second number is known as our divisor. This is representing how many groups there are or how many objects are going to be in each group. Finally, our answer to a division problem is known as our quotient. So let's start with 64 divided by 4. We're going to be using the partial quotient strategy, so we're going to be starting by drawing our symbol for partial quotients. The dividend, or the first number, always goes in the middle. And the divisor, or our second number, is going on the outside. So here we have 64 divided by 4. Now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the greatest place value. So in the number 64, the 6 in the tens place is our greatest place value. So we're thinking, how many groups of 4 can we fit into 6 tens? So what we're going to do is we're going to list our multiples of 4 off to the side and see what gets us closest to 6 without going over. So here we have 4 times 1 equals 4. 4 times 2 equals 8. Well, 8 is already bigger than 6. So we know we're going back to look at the first multiple, which is 4 times 1 equals 4. So we know that if we multiplied 4 times 1, we'd get 4. But we are not looking to get close to 6 ones, we're looking to get close to 6 tens. So we don't want to multiply 4 times 1, we want to multiply 4 times 1, 10. 4 over here in our divisor times 10 equals 40. So we can now subtract 64 minus 40 equals 24. Now we can go ahead and look at our tens place again, and we see there's a 2. Well, we can look at our factors or multiples that we listed out to see if we have any multiples of 4 that get us close to 2 without going over. Well, we can see that 4 times 1 is already bigger than 2. So we know that there's no multiple of 4 that gets us close to 2 without going over. So we're going to now look at the ones. In our entire number, we have 24 ones. So now we're going to continue writing our multiples of 4 until we get close to 24 without going over. 4 times 3 is 12, 4 times 4 is 16, 4 times 5 is 20, 4 times 6 is 24. Oh, well, that's exactly what we're looking for. So we're going to be using the 6 multiple of 4. So we're going to put a 6 on the outside of our partial quotients symbol. Now we multiply our divisor, the 4, times the 6 that we just put here. 4 times 6 is 24. So now we can subtract and we have 0 left over. Whenever the number down here is less than our divisor, we know that we're done dividing. So the last step is going to be to add up all the numbers on this right side. 10 plus 6 equals 16. This 0 represents the remainder. There's none left over. So 64 divided by 4 equals 16. Let's try another one. Here we have 72 divided by 6. Well, we know that the dividend, or our first number, goes on the inside, and the divisor, or the 6 in this sentence, goes on the outside. So we have 72 divided by 6. We're going to look at our biggest place value, which is the tens place in this number, and there's a 7 in the tens place. So we're going to list out our multiples of 6 to see how close we can get to 7 without going over. 6 times 1 is 6. 6 times 2 is 12. Oh, well, 12 is already too big. It's bigger than 7. So we're going to look at our first multiple of 6. 6 times 1 equals 6. So we're going to put a 1 on the outside here. But remember, the 7 is in the tens place. So we're not multiplying 6 times 1. We want to multiply 6 times 1, 10. So it's really 6 times 10, which equals 60. So now we can subtract 72 minus 60, and we have 12 left over. Let's look here in our tens place. We have 1 in the tens place. Well, remember when we list our multiples of 6, the first multiple of 6 was already bigger than 1. It's 6 times 1 is 6. So we're going to now instead look at the ones. In our entire number, we have 12 ones. Let's see if we have any multiples that get as close to 12 without going over. We see the second multiple of 6 is equal to 12. So we're going to use the second multiple and put a 2 over here. Now we multiply our divisor, 6, times the 2 equals 12. Now we can subtract 12 minus 12 equals 0. This number down here is less than our divisor, so we know we're done dividing. The last step is to add up our numbers over here. 10 plus 2 equals 12. So 72 divided by 6 equals 12. Now let's try 185 divided by 5. Remember, the dividend, or our first number, goes on the inside. Our divisor, or our second number, goes on the outside. We have 185 divided by 5. Look at our biggest place value. In this number, the hundreds place is the biggest place value, so we have 100. But when we multiply or list out our multiples of 5, we already know 5 times 1 equals 5. So that's already bigger than 1. So we need to instead look at how many tens are in the entire number. So even though there's an 8 in the tens place, in the whole number, there are 18 tens. So we're going to list our multiples of 5 out until we get close to 18 without going over. 5 times 1 is 5. 5 times 2 is 10. 5 times 3 is 15. 5 times 4 is 20. Well, 20 is too big, so we're going to go back and look at the third multiple of 5, which is 15. So we'll put a 3 over here, but remember, we're not trying to find for 18 ones. We're looking to get close to 18 tens. So we don't want to multiply 5 times 3 ones. We want to multiply 5 by 3 tens. So we're multiplying 5 times 30, which equals 150. Now we can subtract. 185 minus 150 is 35. Now we're going to continue and see that the 3 is in the tens place. But remember, when we list our multiples of 5, 5 times 1 is already too big. It's already 5. So instead of looking at the tens, we want to look at the ones. In the entire number, we have 35 ones. So let's continue to list our multiples of 5 until we get close to 35 without going over. 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times 6 is 30. 5 times 7 is 35. That's exactly what we're looking for. So we're going to use the seventh multiple of 5. We'll put a 7 over here on the right, and now we can multiply our divisor, 5, times the 7 ones, which equals 35 ones. Now we can subtract, and we have 0 left over. Remember, when the number down here is less than our divisor, we know we're done dividing. The last step is to add up all the numbers to the right. 30 plus 7 equals 37. So 185 divided by 5 equals 37. All right, now we have 2,464 divided by 7. Let's set up our partial quotient strategy. 2,464 goes on the inside, 7 goes on the outside. Remember, we start by using our biggest place value, which is the thousands place. So we have a 2 in the thousands place. But if we think of our multiples of 7, we know that 7 times 1 is already 7. It's too big. So we're going to instead look at the hundreds. In our whole number, we have 24 hundreds. So we're going to list our multiples of 7 so we get close to 24 without going over. 7 times 1 is 7. 7 times 2 is 14. 7 times 3 is 21. 7 times 4 is 28. Ooh, 28 is too big. So let's go back and look at the third multiple of 7. We have 7 times 3 equals 21. So we're going to put a 3 on the right side. But remember, we're looking at 24 hundreds. So we don't want to multiply 7 times 3 ones. We want to multiply 7 times 3 hundreds. So now we can multiply the 7, which is our divisor, times 300. Remember, 7 times 3 we said was 21. So 7 times 300 is going to be 2100. Now we can subtract, and we have 364 left over. Let's take a look at the hundreds place. We have 3 hundreds left. But if we look at our multiples of 7, we can see the first multiple, 7 times 1, equals 7, which is already too big. So instead, we're going to look at the tens. In our entire number, we have 36 tens. So let's list out our multiples of 7 until we get close to 36 without going over. 7 times 5 is 35. 7 times 6 is 42. Well, 42 is too big, so let's look at the fifth multiple of 7. So that's 7 times 5 equals 35. So we're going to put a 5 on the right side here, but remember, the 6 is in the tens place. So we don't want to multiply 7 times 5 ones. We want to multiply 7 times 5 tens. So here, 7 times 5 is 35, so 7 times 5 tenths is 35 tenths. Now we can subtract, and we have 14 left over. Well, here we have a 1 in the tens place. But remember, our first multiple of 7 equals 7, so it's already too big. Instead, let's look at the ones. We have a total of 14 ones in the entire number. So we're looking at the list of multiples we've already written out to see how close we can get to 14 without going over. We can see the second multiple of 7 equals 14. So we know that 7 times 2 equals 14. Now we can subtract. 14 minus 14 equals 0. When the number down here is less than our divisor, we know we're done dividing. Finally, we can add up all of these numbers here. 300 plus 50 plus 2 equals 352. So 2,464 divided by 7 equals 352.